Take and hold is easily the most popular mode in the game. The basic premise is you start with a random weapon, then move to take checkpoints.
Interfacing with system node. Hold this position.
Hold them against waves of enemies. Shoot some targets to finish it off, and then move on to the next.
Encryption neutral. Override token found.
You earn tokens to spend at supply points to upgrade your arsenal. Try to make it through all 5 holds as they increase in difficulty. Now there are some more nuances to that I'll go into, but that is the long and short of it. It is a good way to force yourself to get familiar with a variety of firearms, and each run is going to be a little different for that roguelike sense of replayability. You can also check out the Take and Hold tips and tricks videos from Jedi Toby1, who has much more experience with the mode. There you will find out more about the best strategies. I will mostly just be going over the pure mechanics. Let's run through the options that you'll first see when you load up Take and Hold. On the leftmost panel, you will find the character selection. If you're new to this mode, I'd recommend keeping this on Beginner Blake, found under Daring Defaults. Changing characters will change a number of things about the game. It can change your starting equipment, the available weapon pool, the kinds of enemies you will encounter, and the general difficulty. If you want detailed information on each character and more, check out the H3VR Wikia, which I have linked to in the description. I will quickly go over the main differences between the characters. Beginner Blake has the easiest progression, with a good starting loadout and a simple weapon pool. Classic Loadout Lewis is essentially the default mode. Weapons from any era, minus any meme guns, and enemies that can be a little bit more well equipped than Beginner Blake. On-site Procurement Patrice is like Classic Loadout Lewis, except you start with a knife and have to scrape by on what you can find until you buy your first weapon. My personal favorite, Ricky Dicky Random, has a truly chaotic progression, as all weapons cost the same and you never know what you're going to get. Anything goes, and you can end up with a weapon from the Wild West to something from Team Fortress 2. Then there are the Wieners Through Time. These characters have weapon pools based on specific eras and enemies to match. From the 90s onward in Operator Ori, all the way back to the Wild West era with Cow Wiener Calico. Finally, Meme-tastic Meats. These themed characters take inspiration from some fictional sources and have special weapon pools and enemies to go along with them. You can fight using Half-Life 2 weapons against the Sosig Combine and Bread Crab zombies with well-done free meat. Or take some civilian weaponry up against a horde of different types of rot wieners and enemy survivors with Zeke Zombie Hunter. These characters can be a bit tougher than the regular ones, so I'd come to these a little later. After you've picked a character that you want to use, on the next panel over to your right, you will find the general options. These can help you tweak the difficulty of the game for you. The first options will change which leaderboard you'll be on. You can choose the standard 5-hold progression, or try to go as long as you can in endless mode. You can have spawn locking ammo enabled, or a more difficult mode with limited ammo. I'll explain more on this later. Then, standard health or one-hit mode. You can also give yourself a custom amount of health if you want a little bit more slack, but you will not be on any leaderboard. These next options, in addition to the normal changes, will tweak the score multipliers on your run. Arcade AI difficulty will have bots that take more damage, but deal less, and their shots are slower. Radar Detect mode will change the behavior of your radar in-game. Standard will show you enemies during holds, Omnipresent will always show you enemies, and Off won't show enemies at all. The rest of these are self-explanatory. On the next panel to the right, you will see the currently selected map. As of this recording, there's only one official map, though you can install more through mods, which I won't be covering here. Then finally, on the far right, you will see the current rankings of the leaderboard for the current options you have selected. When you've set up everything and you're ready to start, grab the glowing hot dog and eat it. Once you first load in, you'll find your starting equipment on a nearby table. What it is exactly will vary between characters and runs, as weapons are randomized. Typically it is a melee weapon, a pistol, and a health hot dog. An important thing to understand first is the radar, by default on your left hand. The radar will feed you information that you need to play. The ring around the outside represents your health, which you can also see above you. The orange icon on the radar will point you towards the next hold point, and the blue icon will lead you to supply points. Enemies will appear as red dots. I won't be going beat by beat the best way to play Take and Hold. Again, I would look up the Jedi Toby 1 tips and tricks videos. I'm focusing on explaining the mechanics. First, we'll talk about how holds work. Holds will be in a random place from a handful of possible locations, unless you pick a specific seed, which will lock the hold positions. You can find the hold by following the orange symbol on your radar. Typically, it will be protected by some Sosigs. To start the hold, you'll need to touch the orb. This will clear all the enemies and begin the hold sequence, so you can save yourself from having to shoot all the Sosig guards. When the hold is activated, the area will be walled off, so you'll have limited space to move in. Then, randomized cover will appear. Sosigs will begin to spawn outside of the hold and make their way towards you. The number of Sosigs and their strength will change as you progress, and depending on which character you chose. Knowledge of and experience with a hold location will give you insight into where Sosigs typically spawn and the best places to position yourself. If you notice the gray blocky smoke in the air, keep these positions in mind because they will help you in the next part of the sequence. Once you have defeated all the Sosigs, the encryption phase will begin. You will have a limited amount of time to shoot all the encryption targets that have spawned in the hold area. The blocky smoke that you saw gives you hints to possible spawn locations of these targets. The first type of encryption you'll encounter are the static encryption targets, these red diamonds. Simply shoot all of them to end the wave. If you're early on, this first hold will only have one wave, and the hold will end. Otherwise, the next wave will begin, and more Sosigs will spawn. There are other, more complicated encryption target types I will touch on in a moment. After the hold is over, you will be awarded an amount of tokens based on your performance, typically the speed at which you destroyed the targets.
5 override tokens found.
The tokens you earn at holds can be spent for new equipment at supply points, the blue icons on your radar. The supply points change between holds, and even if you don't intend on buying anything, it is smart to visit them as you can find more tokens or health in the boxes found there.
Override token found.
Supply points are randomly picked from a handful of locations like holds. They will typically have a couple of Sosig guards, some boxes, a buy panel, and some other panel type. The buy panel displays your current token count along the top. It will offer 3 categories of items to purchase, which 3 is random, and you can spend a token to re-roll the category by selecting the die icon. Which weapons can possibly spawn from each category, how much they cost, which category is available, and at which point in the game they become available will depend on the progression set by the character you chose. More than just weapons, you can find attachments and power-ups at the buy station. You can get things like lasers, optics, suppressors, and health pickups. Choosing how and when to use your tokens will be important in how you manage your runs in Take and Hold, as well as your luck of the draw when you finally do buy something. As for the other panels at supply points, those can vary. That is the reason why you may need to visit different supply points when multiple are available, as only one may have the panel you're looking for. You can find a recycle panel, which will allow you to sell back a weapon for 1 token.
Override token found.
There is also a reload panel, which will offer you a different ammo type for the weapon you are using. Which ammo variants are available will change based on character as well. To use the panel, place a weapon on the table and press the bullet icon to spawn a single round, or the magazine icon to fill any magazines on the table. A good way to see which ammo is being dispensed from this panel is to spawn a single round, then check it with your wrist menu. You may not want the ammo that is being given, as it could be worse than what you currently have, or what is available at a different panel. So be careful replacing the ammo and magazines that you have spawn locked. You can, to make this quicker, stand inside of the table and reload everything you have on you. These reload panels are more important in limited ammo mode, where spawn locking is disabled. You will have a limited number of magazines, so it will be smart to carry handfuls of loose rounds in other pockets, so you can reload magazines in your downtime.
3 override tokens found.
Speaking of, the final type of panel will only appear in limited ammo mode, the magazine cloner. This will let you use tokens to spawn an extra magazine of the type placed on the table. Now I will talk about the different encryption targets that you may encounter during holds. I already mentioned the static variety, From there, they will generally progress like this. Hardened, which is a target surrounded by armor. Destroy these by shooting them between the gaps in the armor, or by having a very penetrative round that can go through the armor. Swarm, which are multiple targets in a cluster that tend to spin when hit. Recursive, a blue core surrounded by red target crystals. If you miss and hit the blue core, more red targets will grow, so try to be precise. Stealth are cloaked targets that can be found by looking for the shimmer that appears periodically. Agile are targets that zoom around, but they will slow down over time. And finally, regenerative encryptions. You will want to destroy all the targets at the end of the growths spawning from the central core. This encryption will spawn new growths as you destroy them, but you can slow this respawn rate by shooting the core. A good rhythm is to shoot at a growth, and then the core, and back and forth. Finally, I will talk about Sosigs. In between holds, there will be patrols of Sosigs that roam the halls. Sometimes these can drop health if you're desperate, but in some of the harder difficulties it may be wise to avoid them. The types of Sosigs depend on your current character, and how armored and well equipped they are will change as you progress in your run. It will become important in certain characters to get armor penetrating rounds from ammo stations before the final holds. That's it for the take and hold video. I think the next mode I will cover is Return of the Rotwieners. That might end up being a pretty long video. Otherwise, like and subscribe and all that stuff. Leave a comment if you have something that you want me to cover. And you can follow me on Twitch at DV_TV. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for watching.